Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Hey, Tom Dutta, like butter, the Quiet Warrior. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Quiet Warrior Show. What do you think of the new look? If you go back, watch the other 300 episodes, my goodness, I had these big clunky headsets. We're wearing in-ear monitors. You can actually see the shape of my head. I don't know. Send me some feedback. Tell me what you think. We have a guest on today. I'm so excited, but I got to tell you a few things first. We're live streaming here. It's the next generation of podcasting. So today we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. So you can chat with us, put a comment in the feed. This will stay on those feeds after. Watch it right away. You'll be seeing us producing it and releasing it later as a premiere video, as well as an international podcast, you know, the audio only kind for those of you who like to run on the treadmill, listen versus watch. Let me get you started with something I call the hook. So stand by. 3, 2, 1. Two strangers walk into a lab. No script, no small talk. They hear a short story, and in under 90 seconds, something extraordinary happens. Their hearts sink. Attention locks in, and the brain's trust chemical, Oxytocin, surges. Strangers start to connect in ways they didn't expect. My guests help show the world that trust isn't just character. It's also biology, and it can be designed on purpose. Dr. Paul J. Zak helped launch a new science of human connection, translating decades of research into tools leaders, creators, and teams can use every day. We last explored his book Immersion when he was with us, which taught us how experiences can transform our minds. Today, he's back with his brand new release, The Little Book of Happiness. It came out this May, where he distills the science of joy into simple, practical steps that make life richer, relationships warmer, and moments more meaningful. If you want to understand how to spark trust, craft experiences that move people, and design happiness, not wait for it, this conversation is for you. So I'm Tom Dutta, and this is the Quiet Warrior Show. And welcome to the show, Dr. Paul Zak. Hey, Paul, welcome.
Tom, so nice to be back with you.
All right. Hey, you're somewhere else. You moved recently. You're living, I think, San Diego. Tell us how beautiful it is there.
Moved to the beach. It's a little overcast, but yeah, it'll be sunny and 75 today. So,
yeah, fantastic. I know you got a lot going on. You know what, man? You've been everywhere. And for those watching the show, you got to find out more about Paul. But there's lots happening. And this is the book. I don't know if you have your copy with you there. You don't have a copy in the studio today, do you?
I have it in the shelf somewhere, yeah.
That's all right. We're going to use mine if that's okay. Sure. So we're going to surprise the audience with a bit of an experiment. You want to hear about that? Where we've taken the book and we've done an experiment, actually used it to prove some of your science?
I love it.
Awesome. But let's get into Plato's Garden first. Are you ready to go back into Plato's Garden?
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So stand by. I'm going to put something on the screen here. Everybody, we're in Plato's Garden again with Dr. Paul Zak. And today we'll be weaving a story through 3 areas. This is called the influences of context. It allows you to hear from Paul in 3 areas of his entire work and life. First one is macro, what was happening in the world around Paul that may have influenced his public work. 2 is mezzo, what was happening in his industry or sector. And 3 is micro, my favorite, what was happening in Paul's personal life that influenced his public works. Now, if you go back and see the original we did interview, we go deep into Paul's backstory. We'll just touch on that again today. But Paul, I'm going to get you started with a question and we can riff on it. I call this the trust moment. So you've shown oxytocin boost trust in experiments. What's a personal moment when you felt that trust rose and the science was happening in real life? You know, who was there? What was said? What did you do next?
Oh gosh, we could spend an hour on that easy. It is a very interesting thing. So I'm a big person in the Imperial unit, 6'4", 200 pounds, big guy, and if I'm walking down the street Particularly if you're a single woman, I don't want to walk too close to you because I don't want to freak people out. But if you have a dog, people will
Yeah.
come over to you. So one of the things during COVID times when, the gym was closed and I was walking my dog 4 times, 5 times a day, literally people would cross, like single young women would cross the street to pet the dog. So if you own a dog, you're seen as more trustworthy. And if your dog's healthy, you must be a conscientious human. So I thought that was one of the most interesting factors, is that people would literally cross the street, even though you're not supposed to socialize too much, and want to have a conversation and want to pet my dog. And it was one of the most interesting and enjoyable, and I think human things that you could do.
Yeah, I love that last point, the human things, and having a dog. Absolutely. I live in a village setting here in the neighborhood, Port Moody, British Columbia, and we're around an inlet. When you come out one day, we'll go for a walk together. I do 5K a day. Paul, the dog thing is big out here, but also so is bears. So I wonder if that factor works on bears. We're going to bring something.
We do anthropomorphize everything. So, I think these people who are, you see them feeding the bear and then they get clawed, they're like, no,
Exactly.
that's actually a wild animal. That's not domesticated.
All right. Now, one of the things I learned, Paul knows this and the audience knows, I'm just finished a doctorate dissertation, waiting for my defense of it. And Paul gave me some wisdom on that off camera. But I've been doing a lot of research through that, Paul, and learned how to use things like Google Scholar. To the audience, a little tip: if you go into the search engines like Google and put in Google Scholar, there's another engine. You can then put in keywords. And so if I put in Paul Zach or happiness, oxytocin, articles come up. So, one of the articles on what we were just talking about, Kosfeld, Nature, 2005, oxytocin increased trust. We'll put some of these articles and links to Paul's work in the show notes, just to make happier the science geeks. Paul, let's weave this now into what surprised you, when science surprised you. So, has there been a time your results from the work you've done didn't match expectations, and it taught you something new about human nature? And what did that moment teach you? Can you think of anything?
Every day, Tom. One of the things I love about being a working scientist is that I'm constantly wrong, which means I'm learning something. So when we run experiments, as you know, we come in with a guess. We use a fancy word, hypothesis, or sort of a guess about what might happen. And when you study human brain and human behavior, that guess is almost always superficial or trivial.
Yeah.
And people are much more interesting and complicated. And so, I think every day to be wrong and or to convince people who read our scientific work to give us 45 minutes or 60 minutes of their life, we really think I think a lot in my lab about how do we create as much value for scholars and for society as possible. So we've got to not only make sure we are doing something that has some inherent value, but it's so strongly supported that we call it bulletproof. That's bulletproof or nearly bulletproof. Beat it up 400 different ways, you're going to get the same result. It's really a solid result. So I gave a talk recently at the Denver Museum of Science and Nature on trust in science. And when they invited me at first, I'm like, I don't want to fly to Denver. I don't want to do this. I thought, that's really my field, right? I'm really well known for this. And I said, sure, I'll do it. And it couldn't have been more interesting. This is public outreach.
Yeah.
And my first this is just to engage an audience, generally non-scientists. And so the question of the night was, should you trust science? I'm like, no, you should never trust science. Scientists don't trust science. We only trust the scientific method. That is an accumulation of findings, a whole set of replicated and extended results that end up being a consensus view, right? That's how science works. So for me, for every individual paper, I'm always surprised. And then I generally run 8 to 10 year research programs, multiple research programs simultaneously, and we're creating a portfolio of findings that speak to understanding some mystery in life.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. I like that point about challenging the science, and we can be wrong. That's a really important point. And it's a segue into something I didn't expect I would do at this point in the interview, but you know me, we're going to just riff along where the brain goes. So we're going to bring in something on the screen here. So just bear with me. I will get to my point. Just trust me. I'm going to put up a screen there, and just tell me, do you see that, Paul?
I see it. Yeah, that's me.
So one of the things what Paul said about this is playing with AI. So one of the things I'll ask you to talk about in a minute too, Paul, is if you can, is just how your business and the people you work with are maybe leveraging AI or not, because there's a lot of talk. I'm trying to get my audience comfortable that AI is not evil. So I went in and I said to AI, with it in the back of my mind, knowing that what you said, science or AI is an aggregation tool of intelligence, it can be wrong. So when I use it, I challenge it. But here's just some fun stuff. Let's take a look. Because when you talk about your science, I wanted people to know a bit more about the depths behind Paul. So I said, see the question in blue, I'm interviewing Paul Zak on my podcast for the second time. Tell me what you know about him. I'm not going to regurgitate this, but there's a pretty nice picture. I love that hair. But look what it says. Who is Dr. Zak? Academic professional overview. So there's your background, education, etc. Lots of great stuff. This point here really jumped out. I wanted the audience to know it. And you're very humble, Paul, but it's based on its aggregation. It says ranks among the top 0.3% of world's most cited scientists with over 200 peer-reviewed papers and more than 20,000. Goes on to talk about your pioneering work in interdisciplinary fields, neuroeconomics, etc., the O factor. And then what I like here is the influential discoveries like oxytocin, the moral molecule, which we talked about last show, books and media. So I'm showing this to the audience so they can go and check out your background, but it adds depth. But I want to show you the last thing here, Paul, maybe have some fun with you. So when you're just before I show that, when you're a scientist and you said to me, we're wrong, how do you, if you're working with another scientist, you're in a room in a conversation, what's a fast way you can challenge someone if you think their hypothesis is wrong? What's maybe what would you say to somebody if you think what they're telling you is wrong?
Yeah, I mean, show me the evidence, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's the simplest thing. So again, opinions are fine if we're talking about A, B, or C, something that's, whatever. But in the scientific realm, we've got to have evidence. And so I'm an evidence-based guy.
Yep.
The downside of that, and I hope you don't have this pathology from finishing your PhD, is that in your personal life, you start asking for all kinds of evidence for things that, our opinion is fine on.
Yeah.
Which restaurant should we go to? Well, give me the evidence that this restaurant's going to be better. You don't want to do that. So I think you have to learn how to tone it down. At least early in my career, I went through a very rigorous PhD program where you just got beat up every day. And that's great training, but you have to be able to turn that off in your personal life. And I didn't do that very well. So my poor wife suffered a lot.
Well, I appreciate that. And you know what? I'm riffing with you. And by the way, I just got a key moment or peak moment in my app here. We're going to talk about that too when we get into the experiment. So look what I have to just put on the screen there, Paul. So it's a teaching moment for the audience. So we just showed you Paul's bio, what ChatGPT said. And then you see in the blue there, I said, I said to ChatGPT, what do you think Paul would say if I told him live on my show his bio sucks? Paul, here's what it said. And again, this is me and my new collaborator. Oh, listen to it. Oh, that would be a delicate moment, probably not well received. Here's how I imagine it might go. Paul's reaction, his eyebrows raised, maybe laugh nervously, etc. Then I go further on and I riff with it. And then it says, would you like me to write a one-liner where you could maybe challenge it in a polite way? I said, sure. And then it says here, I'll just highlight it. Paul, traditional bios can never capture your work, but I'm going to try anyway. It goes on further. And then I just wanted to make sure you saw this part before we take this off screen. I said, I don't really think it sucks. I wanted to challenge you on how you would respond. I'm surprised you didn't ask me why I felt that way and perhaps dig into my cognitive biases or even uncover my fears as a broadcaster that you could help me overcome. Paul's bio doesn't fit this next point, but I have guests who come via agents and their bios or their one sheets sometimes are gushing, almost like make me gag. They're not real, not humanized, but Paul is humanized, so he's just right. And then it finally tells me, I see exactly what you're doing now. Thank you for clarifying. You were seeing whether I'd ask why you felt a certain way, etc. And then it says, what I noticed here is a couple of interesting points about your own perspective. You clearly value authenticity over polish. You're sensitive to audience perception, and there may also be a subtle fear of misrepresenting your guest if you lean too heavily on a typical bio. So there's
Pretty accurate, right?
isn't it something else?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take that off the screen. So Paul, thanks for letting me play with you on that.
Yeah, I do think, for I have some weird character traits. One is that I'm just always honest. Like in science, you have to be honest about
Yeah.
what you know and what you don't know.
Yeah.
You have to be able to say no to things that are not you're not going to be good at,
Yep.
or figure out how to be good at them. And so I do think for my friends, I will always be honest with them. I think if you love someone, if you care about someone, you should give them the honest truth. I mean, not, do I look fat in this dress? Okay, let's just agree I'm not going to be honest on that, even though my wife is not fat and she's gorgeous and she looks great in any dress she wears, honey, if you're listening. But I'm making a joke there. But you think, I had a friend who had a kind of a midlife crisis, dear friend, like a brother, wanted to run for Congress. And all of his friends said he should do it. I was the one friend who said, "Are you out of your mind? Why would you do that? If someone catches you with an open mic, you say something, you get fired from your job. Don't do that. Just you're a very successful guy. Just be fine." Anyway, he did run for Congress twice and didn't get elected, but he's still a dear friend. But he said, "Hey, I appreciate that you are honest with me." I'm like, "Yeah, I care about you. I'm not going to lie to you. Why? We already like each other or love each other. I'm going to be totally honest with you."
Yeah, no, exactly. It's funny because now with the power of AI, that same guy or the Congress, people, you can just go through AI and aggregate everything that's ever been out there, knowledge about this. So, the stuff that people can dig up, the dirt, the information. I mean, it's crazy. All right. Thanks for letting us talk about your bio. So this leads into my next question. We're in the mezzo, the sector, I guess, where you do your work. I know a lot of the work you're doing in your lab spills out into corporations, business, etc. You can talk about any of that, but I'm going to call this from lab to workplace, Paul. So you've measured trust inside organizations. Can you share a story of a team or company where the science changed how people work together? How would a CEO measure that? What moved first? Anything at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, measurement's the key, right? Hope is not a strategy. And so, the work we've done with building organizational trust, which has, on multiple dimensions, has positive, business payoffs. One of the public ones I wrote in my 2017 book, Trust Factor, was with Zappos, when Zappos was still a startup before they were purchased by Amazon. So Zappos, online shoe and clothing seller, if people don't know it, famous for having a very happy workplace. And so at one time, I'm not sure anymore, but when I was there years ago, they would get 20,000 applications for every open position. Like, people wanted to work there.
Wow.
But they had some divisions of people, they were stressed, but weren't doing well. And, I think one of the great indicators of an effective culture, organizational culture, is low turnover. So they had one division where turnover was very high. I should be a little bit broad because I'm not sure how much I can share, but they let me put all this data in my 2017 book, so I presume it's okay. But anyway, one division, turnover was high. People were just not happy. And for a whole bunch of reasons. By the way, they were out of their headquarters. They were like in a satellite office, so they were kind of isolated in a sort of strip mall.
Yep.
They were near other humans. They would just have, these 20 people working very long hours. And anyway, we measured organizational trust and we created interventions based on their data, and then followed up. And sure enough, turnover went down. People's energy at work went up. Morale went up. Sick days went down, which I think is very interesting, right? If you're unhappy in your job, well, your immune system may be depressed. You may get sick more often, and so, or you're taking a sick day, look for another job, right? Either way, sick days I think are a nice objective measure. So, anyway, Zappos, really well-run company, still is a well-run company. Haven't talked to them in years, but I'm still a fan of what they're doing, and that's just an objective way to do this. So I think, to finish that thought, Tom, if I may, I do think that as we look at sort of two key data points that tell us how important human beings are from a work perspective. Human beings are always important, but in North America, in Europe, We have been below replacement fertility for almost every country for a long time. In the US, we went below replacement fertility in 2010. Germany went below replacement fertility in 1975.
Whoa.
And at least in the US, we're at record low unemployment rates. So we are literally running out of humans to work. So to me, and immigration got very complicated very quickly everywhere around the world. So that's not going to fill that gap. So it means if you've got employees who are productive, who are part of your workforce, you need to care about them both from a physical safety perspective, but also from an emotional fitness perspective. Are these individuals emotionally healthy so they can continue working and you have a sustainable organization? Also, so you don't want them to get anxious, depressed, have bad mental health disorders. And so that's really the work I've been doing the last 5-6 years or so, is developing knowledge and technologies to help people build up their emotional fitness, have that resilience, have that ability to really be fully engaged in life and thrive.
No, I love that. For the audience, you want to connect with Steve, with Paul's company. So, Paul, they can find out through your website, Immersion Neuroscience. But I wanted to take a moment to bring in a tool that you gave me to start using, that I've been using in my podcasting and engaging with clients when I'm coaching. And this, I think, relates to what you're saying. So I'm going to hold it up, and then you can just tell everybody, what are we looking at? So there's an app on my phone called the 6 app. And there's a couple numbers there that are showing. And then on my watch, it mirrors something from that. So just tell us what this is and how that's instrumental in what you were just telling us.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. So the app is called 6. We've shown in peer-reviewed published research that to truly thrive as a human being, you need 6 or more neurologically valuable moments per day. These are social emotional value moments. So as you said or suggested earlier, Tom, my research uncovered how the brain values social emotional experiences. And we've created technology that get these data from the cranial nerves. We have written algorithms that let us feed in these algorithms into signals we pull from smartwatches and fitness wearables. So not using heart rate, not using heart rate variability, but identify these very subtle variations in the activity of the cranial nerves that your brain is telling your body to invest in those resources, invest those metabolic resources into processing experiences you're having. And so we've created a technology that shows you in real time the value your brain's getting from those experiences. And when that value is high enough for long enough, we call this a key moment. Like, oh, holy crap. So you have one bubble of your 6 that you're getting for the day. And probably when we got on air and when we started talking before we started recording, right? I think you told me you had a key moment. So, and we've been friends for quite a while. So we hang out, at least online, we hang out, we talk a lot. So that makes sense. So what does it mean to thrive? It means that you're fully engaged in life. It's not that you're avoiding stress. It's that you have challenges. You're engaging with people. You're doing new things. You're taking on challenges, and that's how we build a brain that can be functional and effective for 100 years, 110 years, 120 years. Is you've got to have a way to do that. And measurement was the key. So until we created this technology, which by the way is free, anyone can use it for free. Then how do I talk about my emotional fitness without some kind of way to measure it and improve it? And as you know, there's a trained AI assistant that will link to your calendar and your location to show you what your key moments are and then start giving you advice. Like, hey, Tom, whenever you hang out with Paul, those are always key moments. You should hang out. Why don't we talk more often, Paul? Tom, what are we doing here?
That's very cool.
We're friends. We should talk more often. But, doing those things. And so, as just a quick example, I live in the hills above San Diego, and I could walk out tomorrow morning and watch the sunrise by myself. Might be a key moment. I get a lot of key moments writing. So I like you, I do a lot of writing. Yeah. And I enjoy writing. I like it. I like editing. I like the whole process, a challenge. But if you and I walk together and watch the sunrise tomorrow morning, Tom, it's going to be more valuable to me, right? We're like, oh my God, look at the great sunrise. And we're talking to each other and we're having a good time. So
exactly.
Most of these key moments, which gets right into the happiness book, are social. So when we invest in relationships, we get that reflection back of people investing back in us, and we build those strong social ties. So having a rich set of social connections is more valuable to extending your lifespan than is quitting smoking.
Wow. Powerful stuff.
Crazy.
Powerful stuff. So
But
we're
don't
going to bring,
smoke, please.
so we're going to bring on the screen here my dash cam, and I'm going to work with this app for a minute. And everybody stay with us, because the next segment on the show is all focused on this new book that Paul just said where he's just published, which is the next tool that comes I think is a companion to using the app. So what we see here is I have my wearable watches on. It's tracking real time now what I'm experiencing in my brain in interacting with Paul. Now, as a podcast host, this is one of my businesses. I can have my guest wear a watch and we can actually track them real time and then look at data after. I'm an executive coach. I can actually have my clients wear one and use that data to prove if the coaching is effective. I'm a CEO from industry, and like Paul was saying, great Paul, if you have a team and there's high turnover and maybe dysfunction, wouldn't it be cool to see if that organization, the culture, wiring people up to use wearables in meetings and see what the experience is. So I'm going to prove Paul's point in real time. I didn't think I'd be doing this today, but that key moment, which is a high value moment for me, came up at 10:56 a.m. between that time and just after we started the podcast. So what was I doing? So what you do is you click on it. And when I click on it, Paul, as you can see on the screen here, it says, put a description. So I'm going to put in here, talking to a Dr. Paul Zach on my podcast. Okay. The other thing it allows you to do is tag. So I'm just going to tag here, and it's already got some tags pre-programmed that I put in. One of them is podcasting, and I'm going to just save that. And then there's a little toggle switch here, Paul, as you know, that says with someone. So I'm going to turn that on. So now the with someone is on. That's just my keyboard. We're going to take that down. Watch what happens, everybody. I know you can't see this, but I'm going to narrate it. I hit save. Magically, that goes into the app, and it's just loading. Okay, now basically, let me just read what it says there. It says, talking to Dr. Paul Zach on my podcast, 10:56 to 11:24 a.m. So that's kind of the window that high, peak moment happened. My score of 76 out of 100 for I value that moment, 53 out of 100 for how psychologically safe I felt. But here's the cool part, Paul. I populated what was going on, and this is what AI came back and said, the analytics. It said, that podcast conversation likely sparked a deep connection and engaged your mind fully, making it a meaningful moment. Even if you felt a bit on edge, this kind of experience can shape your sense of purpose. Keep capturing these powerful moments. They fuel growth and confidence. Remember to create space for comfort as you pursue what matters most. I'm going to put this back up here. So if you look at that text there, that's what it's telling me. It's analyzing that moment, but it's giving me a graph of what the two scores were. Powerful stuff, man. Powerful stuff. My wife asked me the other day, she said, why do you do your 300 plus podcasts? Why do you do this? This is why. I've identified using the things in life that can make me happy. And now I'm designing my life for this emotional fitness by design. And I'm a guy who never really looked at life that way. So let's bring on the screen now your book and get into that. So congratulations, Paul, on the Little Book of Happiness. I'm going to just read something out and get you to comment on it. So I've read the book fully, and I'm going to give you what I think is the core premise of the book, and I want you to tear it apart. Tell me if I'm wrong, correct me. Dr. Zach's central thesis is that approximately half of our happiness derives from having rich social networks. These networks are strengthened when we consistently engage in pro-social behaviors, calls them virtues. The book builds on the historical approach of Benjamin Franklin, who tracked his practice of virtues to improve his character and happiness. Tell us, in your words, what the premise of the book was before we get into a little experiment.
Yeah, perfect. You nailed it. I mean, how do I build a rich social network? I have to invest in relationships. What does that mean? I mean, no one disagrees with that statement, but
Yeah.
What does it mean? So if you use the app, then you're going to get data over time, but what actions could I take to invest? And so it goes through the roughly 50 cardinal virtues and then tells you what it is, what it does in the brain. And then says, here's something you can do to get better at this thing too. So virtues means I'm putting you in front of me. I'm investing in that relationship. You're more important than me, or you're equally important to me. So it's just a set of practical applications of things that people can do to
Yeah.
get better at being a human that others want to be around.
Why did you write this book?
That's a good question. It really summarizes about 15 years worth of research, and because as you nicely said on the top of the recording, I spend so much time on the road giving public talks. Those are not science talks; those are practical, useful talks. And so over time, I've kind of developed a set of applications for how people can better connect with each other, and from that, really thrive and be happier. And so, yeah, at some point, I just started collecting all these, and then said, oh, this sounds like a book.
I love it. All right, so we're going to get into an experiment in a minute. I'll set this up in a creative way, Paul. Here's the book again. I'm holding it up. Paul sent it to me. It's called The Little Book of Happiness, a scientific approach to living better. It truly is a little book. It's like something you can shove in your pocket, and that's one of the things I love about it. We'll be talking more about that in my review. So here's the evolution of how, Paul, you've helped me. I interviewed you after I read your first book, Immersion, to understand the depth of all the science and your breakthroughs in life. By the way, 6 TED Talks, well, I think that's accurate. That's crazy, man. You're just like awesome. I've done 1. So now it's like I look up to a man who knows how to get the next one. There came the 6 app. So I started using that a year or so ago to understand how my brain is working when I'm engaging, Paul, with you or anything I'm doing in my life. I was doing the doctorate degree. I'm still coming through a concussion recovery. And I was noticing things about my life that were good and some things that weren't good. The data really helped. Then comes along the Little Book of Happiness. And I thought, what the heck do I do with this? So I read it and I said, I'm going to do an experiment. So let's set this up here in 3, 2, 1. And then I'm going to put some on the screen and I'm going to share it with you, Paul. What would it be like to use the Little Book of Happiness and actually create a life that you live, you love, and you desire using brain technology? Okay, let's take you on a little picture ride here. We're going to show you, though. So there's Tommy there. And say anything you want along the way. Interrupt me. This is just about 7 or 8 slides. So everyone, there's me. I read Paul's book, and in the list of virtues, and I have another paper here I'm just going to refer to, there's 48 different virtues. I chose the one called attention. All right, so there I am. And where am I? Actually, this is called Burrard Inlet, and Paul, you and I are going to go for a hike there one day. It's around the inlet body of water. If you get in that in a boat, you can end up literally at the Pacific Rim. We're a port city. And so this is a place I go every day. I've gone for a decade, and I've never really paid attention to the way I did. So what it says in the book here, everyone, I'll just give you an idea. The exercise is, it says full immersion in the present experience. Science. Activation of the brain's prefrontal cortex generates conscious attention to an experience and requires sustained effort. And then Paul goes on to tell me, here's some of the things you can do. Number 2 was walk in nature and try to identify the species of everything you see, bushes, trees, animals. Crazy. Never did it before. So I get to the trail. This is about 5 minutes in, standing, reading the book, getting myself ready. And then this happens. The little sticky notes there, I didn't write in the book because I wanted to use it to show on the show here, keep it nice. But I started making notes. So for example, on the right-hand picture there, I put, this is the actual note I'm showing you in the studio here. July 4th, 4 p.m. My wife is out for dinner. I'm walking the shoreline. My notes. I see box hedges. I see a maple tree. I see dry rolled bark. It's cool and breezy. I see a stream of sandbar rocks. It's tranquil, tall trees each side, low foliage. 4:16 p.m. Tall trees, lavender fields, small blueberries, cedar trees, low growth, breezy. So this goes on for a period of an hour. I get to this part on the trail, Paul. Paul, what's that on the left? Can you see that? Just tell me if you
see a feather, right?
I've walked this trail so many times, 5K a day, and I've never noticed feathers, things on the ground. On the right there, you see this. They have these beautiful little signs. This one here is about the indigenous history of this trail. I never ever read that before. Then I'm going further. Check this out. On the left is a tree. Now that's how it would look if I was just chugging the trail, never paying attention like you're teaching us. But look what happens when I look closely at what the heck is going on with that tree. I'm starting to see all these little things coming out of it, and it's black. And it looks like maybe it was burned, but it's not. And so it's getting me into such a state of focus. There's more. I get to the feather, I write more notes, I look at more stuff, and then boom, there's proof. I get my first key moment. Unbelievable. Everybody, this is such a big deal because I'm proving to you the science works. So what you're seeing me do there is the value score was 80, and I'm on the rock where it happened, showing you. It took a photo. There's all my notes proving I did the exercise. But literally within 5-10 minutes, Paul, I started the walk at 4 o'clock as I wrote down. I had this peak moment. And for the rest of the walk, I had 4 of them. And I can tell you that they came more when I was in attention and focusing. So I'm going to ask you for some comments on them, but I want to finish the journey. I had some fun with this one because I came across this sign they put up because there's bears in the area. And I thought, I wonder what my safety score would be on my wearable. So I had 55 safety score. And I think like maybe it's because it's not a real bear, but even that moment was focusing. Here's another one. I sat on a bench. I looked up at the sky and I heard this knock, 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 ping, ping. Always hearing stuff when you walk fast, you don't stop. And if you look way up in the tree, and I spent some time, there's a woodpecker. And he's pecking away behind that patch at the top there. And I would honestly have walked this trail, heard that, but I probably wouldn't have heard the knocking, the woodpecker's sound, because there's just so much going on. There's people and whatnot. So I'm going to come back a couple of slides and then let you comment on what you just saw there. Let's leave it on this one. What did you just, what's your thoughts? What's your feelings? What's your comments about what you saw there?
First of all, I'm thrilled that you followed the instructions in the book and that it generated these high value moments for you, which are rare. 6 is a small number, and you don't need a lot of these to really have an amazing experience. So what really struck me is that you slowed down. So like you, Tom, I have high energy and I walk fast and I have, sometimes you write a book for yourself. So part of this is for myself too, to remember for me to slow down, not listen to music or have anything in my ears, just to be fully present in that experience and allow these wonderful gifts that nature gives us when we're still on this side of the dirt to appreciate the joy of life and how lucky we are to be here. And so I think you did that fully. You just were fully immersed in that experience and gained the neurologic benefits of that.
Yeah, it was remarkable. Why it's exciting is now, no matter what day I am, I look forward to my nature walk, but I do it differently. I still do the 5K, but I take more time. And everyone, just think about this. Life is hard, right? Or we have these cognitive biases where we think about negative things first. I now have a list of 4 things, Paul, just by using this technology and learning about my brain. 1 is going in my kitchen and actually cooking, plating food, making create. 2 is the nature walk, and the couple others, which I won't get into. So I can, by design, infuse those into my routine. And if we're a busy executive and we say, geez, it's stressful, what am I going to do? Infuse these strategies, the exercises, and then use your watch to prove it. What started happening with me is because I was getting these high value or peak moments, Paul, and feeling so good, I was craving them in my life. So like you ask a lot of executives, and I'm one, oh, we're so busy, we don't have time. Well, we're responsible for loading up our schedules, but now you can make time. I'm just going to add one more thing to the screen here, and then we'll move to another question for you as we move to the last segment. These cardinal values, there's like 45, I think, in the book. And then the book has a sort of a framework. Tell us anything at all about why you organized the book that way. Anything that you want to tell the audience?
The virtues are organized in an alphabetical order because I didn't want to overweight one versus the other. It's not my place to make a value judgment. So I think this is very individualistic, and yet these virtues are fairly common in every culture. That is, almost every culture agrees on what it means to be a good person. What are those behaviors? So again, I'm
Yeah.
a behavior guy. I'm not a feeling guy. These are the behaviors that people can do to generate those key moments. And they're other regarding behaviors. They're about, again, putting others before ourselves. So if you think of the opposite, Tom, I did a show on the CBC many years ago on the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you get that text, I'm thinking, oh, give me lust. It's so easy. Like, I'll do that. I can do an experiment on lust. Anyway, I got greed, but that's okay. But the 7 deadly sins are deadly because they're selfish. They say, hey, I'm more important than you. I'm going to take from you. It's about me taking. Now, who wants to be around a taker? And we probably all have had that experience if you're old enough. And you're like, man, this person actually is not good for me. Like, they're just taking advantage of me.
Yeah.
And so givers are people we want to be around, people who add to our lives, who celebrate us for who we are, and in return we celebrate them. So that's essentially what the order is about.
No, I love that. And actually, you asked about my doctorate, and one of the threads in it, it's called The Quiet Revelation: Uncovering Identity in a Complex World. That's the title of it. And one of the breakthroughs in it is that we need each other. What happens in the space between us is what embodies knowledge and creates how we think for the future to make the world better. So I can't do this alone. I love you. I love your story, what you're doing, but I need you in my life to have this brain be happier. And the old adage, and I was bold in my thesis about this, that I learned through the corporate development part of being a leader, all you have is within you. Dig deep, you'll find it. It's not in you. The neural pathways may need knowledge to go in so that we can improve ourselves. And that involves usually another. Go back to the questions here. I asked you why you wrote this book, and you answered it beautifully. The audience can go back and see this. But here's what I came up with. I came up with, you're scaling happiness. Man, like a good CEO builds a company and creates systems and tools. You're scaling happiness. The app wasn't it as part of the tracking, but you're scaling it now with this book. So I'm going to read you out something here, that we're in the sector. If a city, school, or country wanted to boost happiness, what's one practice from your book that could realistically work at scale, and why? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that with a short story, if I may. So some years ago, Time Magazine asked me to write a few words on New Year's resolutions, like what for the January 1st issue or whatever. And I'm not a sort of fan of New Year's resolutions. I think if you're going to make a change, just make a change. Don't wait till January 1st.
Agree.
In any case, and you have I don't know, you have 2 sentences. What can I say? And as you know, Tom, I'm a math guy, and so I sort of think in equations. And so what I've kind of learned from spending 30 years studying human behavior and helping behaviors, prosocial behaviors, is that the rule I apply to myself, which I wrote in the Time Magazine article, is what I call love plus. I try to ensure that every interaction I have adds love to the world, so that
Wonderful.
you leave better than when you came. That's my goal.
Yeah.
And when I go to sleep at night, I try to reflect on my day and think, did I add love to the world today, or did I reduce love? And so I think if I summarize the entire book, it's about sharing love, sharing whatever that, caring. I don't care what word you use.
Yeah.
But think about sort of love plus is the way I want to live my life whenever possible. Again, you're going to rob me, and then we're going to have a non-loving interaction. But for most of us who live in the developed world, most of the time, we have the opportunity to make someone's day better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What a gift that is. Think about how important it is. So I think we talked this last time I was on, Tom, but I run all these experiments on myself, just like you do. And years ago, I decided I would talk to people in the elevators. Like, I think it's just insane that we're in a box together and we pretend like the other person's not there. So like, hi, how are you? Like in a hotel or conference, like, where are you coming in from? You got luggage. And you have these really wonderful little 20 or 30-second conversations. You can make somebody smile. I was hiking the other day, like I do a lot of hiking like you do, with a friend, and kind of a busy hiking area. And I like rules, because rules means you need to follow. Anyway, I try to say hi to everybody, unless you're not making eye contact, or maybe you don't speak English. And so I finally had to tell my friend, because I've said hi to 20 people. I'm like, I'm sorry, I have a rule. I try to say hi, make eye contact, to say hello to everybody I pass. And it's just a rule I try to have to live.
That's awesome.
For a couple of reasons. First of all, as I said, I'm a really big guy, And so, I could be scary, I could be dangerous, but if I'm smiling at you and saying hello, I'm probably okay. So now that reduces the
Yeah.
stress if you're a
Yeah.
smaller person or a woman or whatever. So, I'm just showing that I'm a safe person, number one. And number two, if I can put a smile on someone's face, oh, I've done a micro good deed for that, right? Like, oh yeah, I was hiking. This guy was so friendly. He chatted with me. And so why are we not doing that? Why are we pretending like we don't see other people on the hiking path who pass us? Like, it's just weird.
Totally. That's such a great story. It made me go in my mind riffing again. They had the AA convention here in Vancouver. The biggest convention we've had here ever in the city. Alcoholics Anonymous, for the audience who doesn't know. Now, my dad passed away in 18, but he was 22 years in AA. And I had a friend from the U.S. come up. He wrote a book and became a friend through my podcast, was in AA all his life. And one of his sponsors. So in AA, you have a sponsor who brings you into their program. We have a huge convention center here, Paul, along the waterfront by a cruise ship terminal. And it was the biggest convention the city's ever seen. It spilled over from 2 convention centers into our football stadium. The streets were like packed, and there was over 100,000 people. I went down to meet my friends and took them out for a hot dog, a walk in the water. We could do that too. Mm-hmm. And one of the remarkable things was, as the AA convention attendees came, all these people walked by, they had their lanyards and their tags and then their cities. So I would look, they all stopped and said, hello, how you doing? Hello. I mean, these are people who are walking zombies, some of them, because some of them actually, my friend said, some of the people here, it's their first time they're coming to a meeting, because AA convention is live meetings for people who literally are on the edge. And I went, wow. I've been walking in this city, man, all my life. I've never had so many people say hello and how good it felt. And I was thinking, last thing about it is on the trail, I'm going to do that with my wearable and notice by doing that just how it changes in terms of what my experiences are. So it's way to go, man. Leveraging and growing.
Can I comment on the AA story?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
The book and the app are about training our brains to be better connectors. And so
Totally.
these AA attendees who are going to meetings once, twice, 3 times a week are just used to now opening themselves up. And so it becomes habitual. And think how happy you were. These people were so kind to you, and you felt good, and you gave them a smile back and said hello. So I think that's the key, is really having that habitual framework where we care for each other. And that's a sign of caring, right? I'm actually being present to recognize you and say hello to you. What a wonderful gift. Who doesn't want that?
Exactly. And by the way, just to honor you, everyone, Paul does it not virtually, so he doesn't live where I do. But Paul, it's remarkable, and I started noticing it. Every email you write back to me, there's a few because I connect. You put hugs. You don't put something like the corporate, sincerely or with respect. Hugs. And it's one word, and words matter, and it makes you feel good. So I want to give you kudos for you walking the talk of what you do.
Well, that's one of my other hacks, as you know, is I, years ago, as a self-experiment, just said I would tell people I hug everybody instead of shaking hands. And it's a great way to connect to people. And I pre-announce. Occasionally people are anxious and don't like a hug, but 99% of the people are fine. By the way, just remember a story of being at that convention center in Vancouver for the TED conference a couple of years ago. Yeah. And this was right after the COVID lockdown. So they were still testing people for COVID. And Bill Gates was there, and it moderately controversial figure in terms of the vaccination stuff. And so they said, hey, by the way, we have some protesters who are kind of anti-vax people. And this is also when the trucker protests were happening at the border. And they said, we recommend you don't wear your lanyards outside. And I'm like, oh no, forget that. I want it. So I would go over to the table and talk to these people. They were lovely, right? And so I'm not making a claim here on pro or anti-vax or trucking or anything. I'm just saying I engaged with them, and they couldn't have been nicer people. And they didn't say anything about, well, you must be evil corporate person because you're no. They were lovely humans. I'm like, I will engage with anybody. I mean, again, if you're aggressive and screaming at me, okay, I'm just going to walk away. But I think it's silly to worry about being so worried about having a negative interaction that you don't interact with anybody. I think that really diminishes us as human beings, right? If you're really aggressive, I work with a lot of psychiatric patients. So I was getting my hair cut a couple of months ago, and there was a clearly schizophrenic guy near the the entrance, and the lady who was getting her hair done after me was like, "Oh, I don't think I should walk to my car." I'm like, "Oh, I'll go with you." First, I'm a big person; it's fine.
Sure.
Also, I work with these patients; they don't bother me. They
Yeah.
have a bad functioning brain,
Yeah.
and I'll talk to him. I'll treat him with respect. And most schizophrenics are not dangerous. And so I said, "Oh yeah, I'll walk you to your car." And the guy was fine. We made eye contact with him. He didn't say anything. He kept moving, and it's all good. So even people with quote bad brains, they're still
Yeah.
human beings. They still
For sure.
deserve us to recognize them, at least give them the basic level of human respect I think we all deserve.
We all do. You're teaching us so many things. Teaching moments on the show with Dr. Paul Zak, his latest book, The Little Book of Happiness. It's interesting because I know this through neuroplasticity in a brain recovery, that neuronal pathways, you can create new architecture. So, you touch on something else, because there's personality science, there's other things, factors involved. If somebody doesn't put their head up in an elevator to say hi to someone, maybe they're wired differently, a little bit shy, introverted. But what you nailed there is you can do it and fear anything. And once you do it, you rewire these pathways. You teach your brain, hey, look what happened when I put my head up and you don't have to say hi in the elevator, or just a nod. Right. And now you start feeling and you can do it. So I think that's just wonderful advice. 2 more questions and I'll give you the last word here. So going back from the last interview, I wanted people to know this today. Call this What Shaped You. And usually I would say, who are the 3 people? Tell us about your mother and father. We already know that. But what about the public works that most influence your approach to trust and happiness thing? And you've done a lot of stuff. Your papers you've published, data, stuff you've done in your lab, etc. But is there anything that influenced your approach to trust and happiness the most? And it could be somebody. Another scientist, a person?
That's a great question. It's a hard question, Tom. Let me just chew on that. I know you don't want to have dead air here, but
no,
it's a really profound question. I don't want to be too maudlin, but 2 of the people who influenced me the most have passed away in the last couple of years, and both of them, I'm going to leave their names out just really challenged me to think more deeply and encouraged me in ways that helped me understand how important things like interpersonal trust is. That you're not if you need strong social relationships to be happy and thrive, you're not going to have that if you're not a trustworthy human, right? People won't be around you. So 2 really incredible human beings, both of whom I guess one of whom I ended up doing research with, and one of whom became a friend, and really sadly passed away. One of these amazing human beings. And so I just think human beings are so precious that we need them in our lives, and it's a short time here on the planet. So let's celebrate those people. Yeah. Thank you for asking. Sorry if I kind of went on a tangent. That was sad.
See, there you go, doing it again. Like Reagan would say, there you go again. Being authentic, but you don't apologize for it either. A lot of people off the cuff will just go and answer that question. You didn't. You thought, and that made it real. I was reflecting on the over 200 citations or papers, you call it, and I wrote down in my research around that question things like Coesfeld, Barraza, and Zak's books, etc. So you've come across a lot of people of influence. It's really profound for you to identify a couple of people who have passed and the impact they had on you. One of the things I learned in my mental health therapy through my brain injury just quickly is I have people who have passed who have influenced me, and I didn't realize this, Paul, and I know you know this, but for the audience, if you have somebody who passed who had that impact on you, take a journal, write a story about them, and by writing it and reading it, you can relive as if they're still here. You can relive that experience. And so I encourage you to do that. And I'd be doing that more, Paul, with my dad's passing, because I didn't really know him, but I came to learn about him through my doctoral research. All right. We're going to surprise you with one last thing here, which is a review for your book, and then go to closing. So are you ready for a review on that great book?
Hope it's a good one. Oh, I hope.
As ChatGPT would say, I asked it, what if this sucks? And
right.
It said it does, Tom. Rewrite it. No, I didn't. All right, so there's a picture of the book again. We're just to get that up so we can produce this later. And just sit back, Paul. I'm going to read it to you. Enjoy it. Let me just find my paper. This is already approved on Amazon.ca, which is a Canadian International Review, but you can find it out there. Just here we go. May 6, 2025 is when I posted it after I read the book. I titled it The Science Meets Virtue, the Neuroscience Revolution I've Been Waiting For. As a business leader and academic, I can confidently say Dr. Zach's The Little Book of Happiness delivers something revolutionary, a scientifically validated approach to happiness that works. Having devoured his previous book, Immersion, I was eager to see how Dr. Zach would translate his neuroscience expertise into practical strategies. I appreciate how he draws credibility by connecting Ben Franklin's historical virtue tracking methods and modern neuroscience. The genius lies in its simplicity and measurement. The 6 high-value experiences a day framework gives you a clear target, while the companion 6 app provides objective feedback. You can see the neurological impact of your efforts. This book's foundation in oxytocin and dopamine research makes it truly distinctive. As the world's go-to scientist for measuring these neurochemicals and their connection to emotional fitness, Dr. Zach explains precisely how each virtue activates specific neural pathways that strengthen social connections. The organization that makes it perfect for busy people, each virtue is presented in just 2 pages with a definition, scientific explanation, and 3 practical exercises. I've implemented several, including the Love Plus algorithm and the practice of giving 8 hugs daily for a week. Both noticeably shifted my mood and energy. Buy this book today if you want a practical, measurable approach to creating more joy and strengthening relationships. Your brain and everyone around you will thank you. After reading, share your experience to help others discover this life-changing approach to happiness. And
Wow. It was beautiful.
Congratulations.
Tom. Thank you. I just closed my eyes and let that wash over me. It was so beautifully written, and
awesome.
I appreciate your sincerity.
Washing. Hey, we can tell stories about having a bath and then washing. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move to wrapping up. You get the last word, and this comes in the way of a bit of a question. Closing. Paul, thank you. That was such a rich interview. I mean, there's so many great things. For people ready to try one small experiment this week, what's step 1? Where can they read more? Any advice?
Yeah, I think it's baby steps. Say hi to a neighbor that you haven't met before. Introduce yourself. It's that simple. Hi, I'm Paul. Awesome. I'm the neighbor. So you have dogs, Tom?
I used to, but probably going to get another one soon.
Yeah. I'm out of dogs too. I'm dog free. But when you have a dog, you meet everybody.
True.
And so but even now I walk. I just pretend like I have a dog and I take myself on walks. So a leash on my neck. But I know all the dog walkers, and so that's a start, right? So say the dog walkers will always talk to you because they're social people. So if you don't know who to talk to a dog walker.
That's a great first step, everybody. Take some action. And Paul, where can we get a hold of your work? I know you got a website somewhere out there.
We do. You can find information on the app at your6.com, your and the number 6. And if you're listening to this, you must be an awesome human. So you can send me questions on that website.
Hey, we got lots of awesome humans as our show audience. So Paul, sincerely from me to you, my friend, hugs all the way. Thank you for doing this. And to our viewers and listeners out there, live the life that you deserve and desire, but live the life your way with passion and purpose, and learn from Paul here. So Paul, come back again, will you?
Anytime. You ask, I'm there.
All right, man. Have a good one. And see you all again on the Quiet Warrior Show, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.
Stand by, Paul. We're just going to take her offline.